It is, and a beautifully on the outside, you said beautiful design, just beautiful detail, beautiful lines to it.
Well, the other thing that makes the building so attractive is it's got an indoor parking garage attached to it. You drive right around the back of it,
Yeah,
and
that's right.
it has this indoor parking garage, and of course it has to be completely redone. And there's
Mhm.
been a little vandalism in there, unfortunately. But the thing that was the big expense was the elevator shafts. There's three of them in there, and everything has to be done.
Well, thank you for telling me about it, Otto.
Sure, it's a beautiful building inside and out, but nobody's been able to make the numbers work. Morning, Mike.
Hey, morning, Otto. What's the asking price on that building?
I think that I think they don't even have an asking price on it right now.
Yeah.
I think if somebody goes in there and makes them a halfway reasonable offer, they're going to take it because the last people that owned it, they just pumped a lot of money in there. I mean, everybody that's bought has pumped a lot of money in and then just had to quit.
Wow.
And it sounds like you said the elevator shafts are really the stumbling block where that cost is really what making it very difficult.
Well, when you got 10 stories, when you got 10 stories, at least as I understand it, you can't go in and put in a push elevator, which would be
You
less,
mean the hydraulic, right?
yeah, which would be less money. But there's three shafts there, and I think one of the people that tried to do the deal was even going to shut it down and put just one shaft within with a building that's 10 story and all the units that they, at least on paper, are going to put in there. One shaft wouldn't work.
Right,
You'd be standing there waiting on the elevator all morning.
right.
Plus, when that one's down for maintenance, you don't have any other backups.
That's right, and nobody wants. Yeah, that's right, and no, certainly nobody wants to walk up 10 stories. At least I wouldn't. But a number of people have tried over the years, and nobody's been able to succeed. It'd be a shame to tear it down because it is a very nice building.
Yes, it would be terrible.
Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
What's the address we're talking about, Otto?
13. I think it's either 1213 or 1312 East Broad. Right there, right at Broad and Winter, right up from the Columbus Foundation offices.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard about this building. It's been vacant for a while.
It's been vacant probably 5 years.
Yeah. It
And
was in good shape when I moved here to Columbus, but yeah, lately it looks a little neglected.
oh, it is. It needs to be completely redone, but nobody can make the deal. Nobody so far has been able to work the deal work because of the cost to put it back in shape.
It's a beautiful building.
It still looks good from the outside. The outside and the front still looks good, but you go in there and you look around and you say, "Boy, I don't know if I want to be standing in here or not."
Are there structural issues, Otto, or do you know?
As I understand it, yes.
Okay.
So we have a forum. Shannon, Mike, Otto, Steve. All right. Steve's here, right?
I'm here.
All right, Steve. I mean, we have a quorum. It's
Okay.
8:30. If you want to get started, you can.
Everybody all set? Let's go for it. First of all, just to announce the next hearing will be April 27th. think you've all got notice of that one. Next of all, could we swear in the staff? Who's here from the staff today? Lewis, anyone else? You swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. If so, say I do.
I do.
Thank you very much. Okay, next order of business is to call the roll. Lewis, you can do that if you would.
Sure. So, Steve,
I'm here.
Otto Beatty,
Here.
Mike Lutz,
Here.
Bob Loversige,
Here.
Dana Maniaci,
Here.
Ed Hardesty,
Here.
Tony Slanik. Is Tony here?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all commissioners are present. We have a quorum.
Great. Okay, we got a good turnout as well. Let's see, we are going to do an overview of the hearing format, particularly for our guests and applicants today. Go ahead if you would. Does Nolan do that or does Lewis do that?
I do that. Nolan, do you want to pull it up again? Or Nolan, do you want to do it? It's up to you.
I don't mind doing it at all.
Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Downtown Commission. Just be aware that attendees are muted upon entry. You will be unmuted as appropriate. The chair will call on applicants to speak. If you do have questions, feel free to send those questions via WebEx chat to me, Nolan Harshaw, down at the bottom right hand of your screen. You will be required to have your video feature on if you are speaking. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed to YouTube currently. And to access meeting materials, feel free to follow this link here. And any comments I receive in the WebEx chat will not be part of the official record. So go ahead, I'm going to ask all applicants and speakers to go ahead and turn off your video and mute yourselves. And the order of speaking will be as follows. City staff will present application materials. Applicant will be sworn in and asked to present any additional materials they have. Any registered speakers will be sworn in and provided 3 minutes to speak each. And commissioners will discuss the case and ask questions to the applicants when needed and necessary. Last housekeeping item, I'm no longer able to unmute participants. So I apologize if I mute you, if I hear some feedback. Don't take offense to that. Just be aware of your muted status before you start speaking. And I think that's it. I'm going to hand it back over to Steve.
Okay, thank you very much, Nolan. Let's just go ahead. We'd like to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Could I have a motion to do so, please?
So move, and good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Otto. Thank you. That's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we got lots of seconds. That's good. Bob and Jana. So it's well seconded. Are there any questions, comments, additions, deletions? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Let's just move on to the first case if we could.
Sounds good. Let me pull up my share screen here. And I want to apologize. I listened to the recording from last meeting and I was so loud. I apologize to your ears in advance. So I'm monitoring it today. Is it okay today?
I think you're okay so far.
All right, I have my device properties pulled up here, so I don't know why my microphone likes to get really loud, but I'll keep an eye on it. So the first case is 195 East Broad, and I'll pull it up here on the map. We've been looking at this location the last 2 meetings, but for anybody who's viewing from the public and new to the meeting, this is the location here. It's at the corner of South Young and East Broad, and it comprises these 2 buildings right here. And I do have site location pictures, but we've all seen it, so I think we could just skip it for now, unless any commissioners would like me to go through them again.
No, that's fine.
I think we're all set.
Good. So I'll just be brief, or I won't read all of this, but it's construction of a 13-story mixed-use structure. The applicant is proposing construction of this structure. They are returning with details requested at the February 23rd meeting. where the commission passed the following motion: approval of the proposal as submitted for the demolition permit and construction. So that has already gone through. And we ask that they return with details on storefront, brick samples, window systems, and metal panels. And then at a later date, they will return with details on the artifact wall, lighting, and graphics. So they're coming in for this second bullet right here to get final approval. So they have provided an updated packet with wall sections, brick details, section details, as well as cut sheets with samples of the materials and colors to be used. And so in summary, the proposal generally meets the guidelines with regards to building design, materials, and context. And they will be returning at a later date with the details on the artifact wall, lighting, and graphics. And I have the packet here, and we do have the applicant present as well.
Very good. Who's here for the applicant then, please? Would all those here for the applicant?
I'm here, Bryce Hall with Kephart Architects.
Bryce, great. Let's see. There we go. Now you're on the camera. Anybody else with you here today, Bryce?
I don't know that anyone else is going to be speaking today.
Okay. If you're the only one speaking, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say I do.
I do.
Good. Great. Bryce, we're pretty familiar with this. So with all due respect, kind of let's talk about those issues that we gotta work through today and
Sure.
Go from there. Thank you.
Absolutely. Lewis, can you bring up the package perhaps with the details?
Sure.
And Steve, unlike other meetings, I actually don't have that much to say today. I just have the details to show you guys.
Perfect. Let's go there. And if we have any questions, we'll let you know.
It's at the end of the package, Lewis, the last several sheets.
So we have
Okay,
the details here we have the section wall details as well.
Yep. So on this sheet, we have the cut sheets for the general building materials that the commission had asked to see last time. You see there are, starting in the upper left-hand corner, two different metal panel, one ribbed, one smooth in texture. We have and then the colors for these guys are back several sheets that we've looked at several times before, but as you recall, they are variations of grays. And then below that, Lewis, if you could scroll down a bit, you'll see the brick material that's been selected. That's at the base of the building, of course, we've seen several times. And then panning to the right, Lewis.
Is that a glazed brick?
It's not,
Bryce?
no, it is not glazed, Steve. Perhaps you can zoom in just a bit there. Lewis,
Yeah.
perhaps shows better.
Lewis, that is better if you can expand it like that. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, Steve.
Bryce, is that it looks pretty black on my screen, but it's kind of a little bit gray, isn't it?
It is gray. Yeah, it's not black. It does appear that way, Bob, but as you've seen in the other presentations, it's actually a warmer gray than it appears.
Yeah. Okay,
And
that's
it's
what I
got
thought.
some
I just want to make
looks
sure.
like it has some variation in the color as well.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is
What's
this
your
the
mortar
one?
proposed?
Is this the one that you were using for the accent in the stack bond?
This is the field color.
This is the field. Okay.
Yep. And the stacked bond will be a darker color.
Okay.
Mhm.
And the mortar color?
Is a light mortar.
Okay.
Now, light, does that mean like what we're looking at on this sample or?
I think what's shown here, Steve, is just what came from Belden, so I'm not sure that's the exact color of the mortar.
Is it a gray tone?
It is a gray, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and if you pan to the right there a bit, Lewis, you'll see the window and storefront profiles, I believe. Yep, so you can see the on the left of the two, the quality, the VPI is the residential windows that will be used in the superstructure above the garage. And then to the right of that, Lewis, that is the storefront that will be used at the base of the building. And this is showing you know, that one small image that they show is showing the clear anodized. Of course, we're doing a dark bronze color for the finish of those windows, as well as the residential windows above.
So is that going to read kind of semi-translucent or opaque from the outside, or how does that read?
The glazing itself will be, Steve, will be, of course, some level of reflectivity to it, but primarily translucent. Yes, transparent, of course. The finish on the metal will be a dark bronze for the storefront. The windows will not have a tint to them; they'll be clear.
Oh, so that's my question. So
I'm sorry, yeah, I wasn't clear about that.
We're looking at clear glass then, right? The
Correct.
glass
Yep.
itself?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. I think that's good. I misunderstood what you were saying.
No,
Are
sorry,
the-
that was my fault, Steve.
Are the windows set, not the storefront, but just the other windows, are they set flush to the wall? Are they reset a little, inset a little bit? Or like what's the relationship between the wall plane and the window frame?
Good question, and we'll look at the details next. So why don't we look at if there's any more cut sheets on this page to see, Lewis, and then we can go to the details to answer that question.
Okay.
Great question. And then actually in that upper right-hand corner, guys, if you look there, that is the curtain wall sample that'll be at the main entry of the building, that corner at Broad and Young. And actually the color that's represented there on that cut sheet, that it looks like more like a dark bronze, the actual color of the frame material that will be for the storefront and the curtain wall material.
And then Steve, you had asked about the tinting. Yeah, the windows won't be tinted, as Bryce said, but there will be this section here that will be tinted, which is blocking a mechanical room behind. These two storefronts will be tinted.
Yeah.
Good point, Lewis. Thank you.
Do we want to move to the sections?
Yeah, I don't know if there's any time need to be spent on the sections, but I think maybe the details instead.
Let's go through those then.
One more page there, maybe, Lewis.
Where are we at here? Let me pull it up here.
There we go. That would be a good place to start.
Oh, here? Okay.
Yeah. So, here we are, group detailing. Yep.
Can you expand that just a little bit, Lewis? There, better. Thank you.
That detail's not too interesting. That's a waterproofing detail, but perhaps if you pan down a bit.
There we go.
There we go.
Thank you.
Okay, so detail 10 there, guys, is the top of that. We were just talking about the curtain wall at the entry corner. And on my screen, it's just a little bit out of the view. I can only see the bottom of that detail 10. Maybe we could pan it just a bit. Maybe you guys can see it better than I can only see the very bottom of it.
Yeah, it's all we can see.
Yeah, it's demonstrating how that curtain wall will be meeting that's
There we go.
Geez, I don't know why it's doing that. I'm showing it as full screen.
Okay.
That's good.
Can you enlarge detail 10?
There we go. Thank you.
That's good.
Better.
Good.
okay. That's great. Thank you, Lewis. So there we are, a group looking at the top of the curtain wall. As it's meeting the metal surround. We've got that brass surround at the entry to the building there. So that's the detail at that location. So you can see how the curtain wall is meeting the material. Below that is a detail in elevation of what was being asked about earlier, which is yep, there we go. The two different types of brick, the running bond, which is the field, that was the question that was asked earlier, and then the stacked bond, which is the accent material of a darker color and obviously a different bonding style. And then perhaps we pan, yeah.
Is it the same finish? So whether it's the field or the darker stack bond, the finish of the brick, is that the same?
Yes, neither one is a glazed brick in answer to your question.
Okay.
I think, Lewis, there's one of the details on this sheet, perhaps detail 5, shows the residential window in the metal panel, which was a question that was asked a moment ago. Well, I was wrong about my guess. Maybe detail 4. There we are. There's the window. And so details 1 and 2. Sorry, I see them now. Okay.
So it's just slightly recessed.
Slightly recessed. So as a reminder that this building, what it requires is a layer of insulation, rigid insulation, exterior to the building structure, which is what you see there. And then on top of that, we've got our finish. So generally speaking, the windows are recessed the depth of that rigid insulation,
Mhm.
which is about 2 inches. And then these windows are all flanged, so they have to be, affixed to the outside face of the building structure. That's what kind of positions them within the assembly.
I have a quick question about the storefront and the brass surround. It looks like the brass surround also comes into the building a little bit.
Yes.
I think that's a very nice detail.
Yeah, we're always striving to bring some of the exterior materials into the inside of the building. In fact, some of the brick will return into that lobby and leasing area as well. And then similar detail, you'll see on the left there, details 3 and 4. That is at the amenity deck. So that's, again, the 13th floor is where we have our club and amenity space. So you see here how at those locations, how the storefront is situated in relationship to the depth of the wall. And what else is of interest on this sheet, Lewis? I can't quite see those top details.
I think we're good.
Yep. What can I see detail 5 and 6? That might be worth actually, all those might be worth spending a moment on. So detail 7 and, yep, perfect. Thank you. So here, guys, what we're seeing is we have those openings in the garage level, which we talked about both meetings in the past, that provide interest to the elevation and also ventilation for the garage. And they're surrounded by a metal frame. And this detail is showing that frame at the sill, and then the one below, I think, was showing it at the head. So to provide a little bit of detail to each of those openings. Yeah, that's the head detail. Thank you. And then to the left of those were 2 details as proposed though we're not talking about the actual installation of that artifact wall, the materials that would be in it. We've detailed how that surround would be created, how the field onto which those artifacts would be displayed. So that's detail 7 and 8 there.
And where will the art wall be? Along Young Street there?
Along Young Street, Steve. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
correct. Kind of on the south, along that facade to the south there is where it was.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lewis. And then on this page, guys, we're looking at a number of details about how the materials will interact where we're meeting the application of the reapplication of the existing facade there primarily along Young Street, but also to a bit along the east side of the building. And so I don't know which one to zoom in on first there, Lewis. You could just pick one and we'll.
Do you mean Young Street or do you mean Broad Street?
Did I? Broad Street. I'm sorry. What did I say? I meant Broad. I'm not sure what I said.
Good.
I meant Broad. So that gives you a sense of some of the depth to that reapplication of that existing material there. Maybe we pan down there a bit. There we go. That's a good one. So here we are looking at the window system as it would be as installed at the reapplication again of the existing materials there along Broad Street. I'm sure I said it correctly. And you can see the depth of that window recess as relates to the face of the finished material. And perhaps we pan down just a bit there. That's just at the base. And again, the base here, we're recreating what the base of the existing storefront of the building in place looks like today. And then to the left of that, detail 4, this is representing the second level of that existing facade where we'll be recreating those wood windows that are there currently that have got that railing in front of them. And again, just representing the location of those windows as relates to the face of that material. And you can, again, see the depth of relief at those window installations.
Is that close to what it is right now on the windows?
Yes, it is, Steve.
Okay.
And then if you could pan up there, Lewis. This is a detail just representing, this one probably is of interest to the group. This one is showing the top section of this detail is the new brick that we looked at in some of the previous details. And then below that, it shows the existing facade reapplied to the building. And you can see that depth of relief between the two finished materials. And I know that was of interest to the group to make it look as if this facade has not simply been pasted on. So there's quite a bit of depth. And of course, as you recall,
Yeah.
there's some additional relief adjacent to these materials where it returns to the building to help emphasize that depth of material. Lewis, that might be it. Let's see if you zoom out there. And I think that's the last page, if I'm not mistaken.
I got a question for you here. Tell me about these the windows in the old facade portion along Broad Street. At least 2 or 3 of them are just blank spaces, right? For with the utilities
Correct.
behind them. Is there anything behind the other ones? I mean, can you see through the other ones transparent?
So, yeah, well, that's a good question, Steve. So actually, to answer that, Lewis, maybe we could go to one of the elevation sheets if you wouldn't mind. Or one of the renderings is probably the best to look at. Actually, that would be fine if you zoom in, top right there. Okay, so there's 2 groups of windows, Steve.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, along the base of the building, the storefront material, the last 2 bays to the right on the page, those 2, those are the ones that Lewis was describing, where behind that we've got our stair shaft and elevator shaft. So those will not be transparent. Those will be back painted. It'll look, the glazing will look like glass, but you would not be able to see through it. The remaining panels to the left of those are opening onto, you might recall, we've got commercial space there that could be occupied by a retail tenant. Those will be transparent. Above that, again, above the back painted, the windows that run along the top on the second floor, those to the right on the page, again, those that are in front of our stair core and elevator shaft, those again would be back painted, similar to the storefront below. Those to the left of that will be open to the garage, actually. So those will be open to the first level of parking above grade, and they provide ventilation for that garage level. So those will actually not.
They'll be glazed then or not?
They will not be glazed. They will be, the frame will be there and the spandrels that you see there now, Steve, but there will not be any glazing there to allow air to pass through it, to allow for the ventilation that were required in that garage.
I'm wondering, and I'm kind of talking out loud. I think the storefronts that's easy. That's great. It's really good to have that along the street. I'm just concerned about the spandrels. Do we end up with this kind of dead space? And without kind of maybe saying what I think you ought to do, but I'm wondering if there would be a way to kind of do something to those pieces there so that it just doesn't look, so it looks more intentional, not like you've just got something that's you're trying to cover over a stairwell or something with along there. And I don't know what that would be. I mean, maybe some kind of subtle graphic over it, or maybe some kind of transparency to something behind there that you could put something, even if it's only a foot deep or something, into a stairwell. I don't know.
That's funny you mentioned that, Steve. We actually contemplated that solution where we would use a clear glazing and then a material behind it to kind of display what was behind it. We actually felt that would look a little bit
contrived.
With our opinion, of course, we thought it would look a bit contrived. That was eyes is in the beholder, of course. But maybe the way to look at it, Lewis, if we go back a couple more pages, we can see the rendering again of that for Steve's benefit, for the commission's benefit.
Bryce, is there any space at all behind, between that glass and the stair shaft?
Yeah, there is, Bob. I'm not exactly sure the depth of it, but between that and the actual structure, yes, there is some depth.
Would it make any sense? And this, I'm just thinking out loud. It might be a stupid idea. It wouldn't be my first. If you have the wall behind it painted black, and the glass were clear,
Mm-hmm.
would it look more consistent than if it were spandrel glass?
Because at least it gives it some depth.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm just
essentially.
asking that question. And then maybe even the upper ones, same thing. The wall's black, but there's no glass.
Yeah.
But that might become
That's
a pigeon roost. So,
yeah, well, we looked at that solution. We were concerned about the accumulation of debris and
yeah,
stuff behind there. It'd
crap.
be difficult to clear.
Yeah.
I will remind the group that the way the spandrel panel works is it's just like the rest of the glazing. It's two panes of glass. The first pane is clear. The second pane, the outside face is clear, and it's not until you get to the back of the second pane that's actually painted. So it's difficult to make out, and it's not exactly what you're describing, Bob, but there is depth to the
Yeah.
actual glass itself. So
Yeah,
it doesn't
a little
look,
bit.
very flat right on the surface of the glazing. There's some depth within the glazing itself to make it look um, a bit more appealing.
Have you looked at different, I'm assuming that the spandrel glass comes in different colorations or
Sure.
intensities. And have you looked at that to see which effect would work best with the rest of the storefront there and which would give that illusion of the most depth? Or just blend in better and not be, very harsh or look one dimensional?
Right. Yeah. What we did was select a color. It's a dark color, the one we selected at the moment, which is meant to complement the colors of the materials around it. So it's very similar in nature to the color of the brick itself, the base at the bottom of the storefront itself. So we we have selected a particular color for this rendering. We could certainly look at others. We felt that this one
Looks
complemented
good.
the palette the best.
Mhm.
Is the glass for the future tenant space, is it dark tinted as well?
It's not. No, that glass is clear, just
Okay,
as the
good.
glass at the entry is clear.
Okay.
And I'll add, we had the similar concerns about the tinted windows as well on this section right here. And we were also kicking around the idea, what if we asked them to put something like a wall several feet back and apply something there? So it's consistent with what you guys are saying.
I think they've thought it through very thoroughly. I think it's going to be fine.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Have we
addressed
covered all the things, Louis?
That's what I was just gonna ask is, have we covered what we wanted to cover here, Louis? I think we have.
I think
Does anybody
so.
else have anything else?
I
Yeah,
just
everything.
I just had one comment about the Young Street facade, if that's okay. And it's that I think any opportunity to give it more of a sense of openness or, a feeling that this is a pedestrian friendly, facade or something where somebody would feel like, okay, this is not back of house, it's someplace where you would really want to engage and walk down. And I know you're going to have your artifact wall there as well. But I know last time Steve had mentioned maybe where you have the office, or also I know you also have a bike room, a bike storage room. If there's an opportunity maybe to create a little bit more glazing or maybe even a clear story in that bike area, I just think anything that gives that wall at the ground level a little more sense of transparency, I think would be helpful and be a good visual cue for people to think that that is, a more, accessible wall plane.
I think
What's
we've
the
already
height of
approved
those?
that.
What's the
Oh,
height?
did we approve it the way it was? Okay, I'm sorry. I just wanted to mention that.
What's the height of those windows there, just to the right of right where you're pointing there? Do you know offhand, Bryce?
Well, I'm going to be guessing, but I think they're around 8. I believe the head of those windows is about 8 feet, Steve. And then the
Okay.
sill is, a foot or two above the ground. So they're rather expansive pieces of glazing.
Okay, are there any other questions for the applicant then? I think we've addressed what we had asked them to work on here for us.
I
Is
agree. I
there
think they've
anyone
done
that wants
everything
to?
we asked. I move
Yeah,
approval.
okay, there's a motion to approve. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Okay, that's Jana for second. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Anything from the audience? If not, all those in favor of approving the application here, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, Louis, that motion carries. Bryce, thank you very much. And
Thank you, guys.
have these
Appreciate your
other,
time as always.
Sure, and when you have these other elements for us, we'll see you then.
I'll look forward to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You have to come to Columbus next time.
I'm looking forward to that too. It's been quite a while since I've been there. Hopefully, maybe next time I'll be there in person. That'd be a lot better.
And see if you come here, if you come east, you don't have to get up as early.
You're right about that. You're right about that. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. See you later.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
Okay.
Okay, next case, please, Louis.
All right. So the next case is 50 East Mount Street. This is a new application. This is the location right here. East Mount Street's right here. Noble Street is to the north, and Pearl Street. We're talking about this grassy area right here. Many people were under the impression this was a park. It wasn't, it did have some plantings and stuff at some point, but it is not actually a park. Here you can see its relationship to the Franklin County parking garage.
It's the site of the old county jail, which looked like a castle.
Yeah, I think they had juvenile court in there for a while.
Yeah, they did.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, wow. Was it a pretty interesting looking building?
No,
was.
well, okay.
It was a good building to scare little kids. Be good, or you'll have to go here.
You didn't want to go there. Okay,
No.
let's go.
So here are the pictures. I did a site visit. Here's the corner of Mound and Pearl. You can see what it looks like. It has some mature trees on it. The area's been fenced off. I think they had issues with people loitering there. Here you can see, so this is the southwest corner. This is looking at the northwest corner into the site. Here is the north edge. This is Noble Street, where they will be accessing this proposed parking lot. Here you can see this is the northeast corner looking towards the courthouse. This is just a picture of the site itself. You can see it's just grass. And here is just kind of to give you some context. Here's the surrounding buildings to the west, some nice historic looking buildings there. And to the south, you can see the very large parking garage and then the church that's on that side as well. And so staff report. So they are proposing a 0.81 acre, 85 space accessory surface parking lot to serve the Franklin County Commissioners. The main ingress and egress for the parking area shall be off of Noble Alley. The proposal includes storm management facilities, electronic lift gates, lighting, and landscaping and screening. So our analysis is that the guidelines state that surface parking has had a detrimental impact on the character of downtown. Mixing land uses, screening parking, and limiting the amount of new surface parking will together ensure a responsible approach to the provision of parking downtown. Structured parking is preferred, and shared parking arrangements are encouraged. That being said, the applicant has worked with me to improve the proposal to include bicycle parking, masonry piers, decorative fencing, and landscaping and screening, which meet the guidelines. Originally, it was just a surface lot that went from edge to edge of the lot. Also, the applicant has provided a narrative from Franklin County explaining that they view this as a temporary lot and they have plans for future structured parking at this location. So in summary, the proposal increases surface parking downtown, which goes against the guidelines. However, the applicant has worked with staff to create a proposal that meets the guidelines criteria for the actual design of surface parking. And with
Can
that,
I make a comment? Can I make a comment on that before we start?
Sure.
And the reason I'd like to make a comment on it is for those of us that are in that area a lot, going in either one of the courthouses, the situation down there really affects the public. If you go down there at 8:30 in the morning, you will find people just going around the block 5, 6 times looking for a place to park. And a lot of people have gotten themselves into a problem being late going to court or being late going to wherever they needed to go in either one of those buildings because they couldn't find parking and people just lost. So I hope that we take that into consideration, even in getting something done on a temporary basis, because that area really affects the public, and it's caused some people some real issues getting to court on time and the like. I mean, I see it all. I see it all the time, and people just stopping each other on the street, double parked. Where can I park? So even if we can get some more temporary parking down there, I think it would really be good for the public in Columbus. Those of us that have to go into those 2 buildings. I just wanted to make that comment
Thank
because
you.
I see it all the time, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman.
All right. Thank you. Let's move on to the applicant then. Who's here for the applicant, please?
Good morning. My name is Chris Long, Deputy County Administrator, and also with me is Jamie Tickle and Rich Crozier from the County Engineering Office.
Okay. Would both of you kindly raise your right hands, please? Right hand, I guess. You each have one of them. You swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. If so, say I do.
I do.
Good. Thank you very much. By the way, just a quick question. Louis, is this possibly in an ancillary parking zone where they're allowed to have ancillary parking? I don't think it matters to what we're going to do today. Well, then they're entitled. I think they're entitled to it because it's clearly ancillary. So, but in my mind anyway, unless anybody has an objection to it. But
who's going to be parking here?
So this will be, good morning, Commissioners, Chris Long, again, Deputy Administrator. It will be a combination of staff and the public.
Okay.
And of course, my comments went to the public. It's just a constant traffic jam down there from 8 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock or 9:30.
Let me ask you this: when you say temporary, how we've heard this comment from people before. Tell us what your timeline on this is.
So we have talked through with county administration and the commissioners, and it's our intention to be able to have structured parking within 2 years of the new courthouse that's being constructed directly across from where that surface lot is. And so, as you may know, the county and the city have been working on the final details. The county owns what is currently known as Dorian Commons and 410 South High Street, where the city is going to be constructing a new municipal courthouse. So it's on the southeast corner of Mound and High Street.
Okay.
So it is the intention, of course, funds dependent, but we are in a critical need, as Vice Chair Beatty had indicated, of staff and, more importantly, public parking in that downtown complex, which is critical, has been for the last 10 years and will only continue. We think it's incredibly positive that the city has decided to construct the municipal courthouse downtown, because having those county court complexes all connected and interconnected is incredibly important. But to have that surrounding infrastructure to support it and support public access to it is crucial.
So you're saying that from a planning standpoint, when
Steve,
you start off, I'm sorry. Yes.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I apologize if I did, but I'm sorry. I don't believe we swore in the applicants.
We did.
No, I think we did.
Oh,
Chris,
we did? I'm sorry.
Jamie,
I
Chris
thought we
and
had.
Jamie, yes. You've been sworn in, right? Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, no problem. So, so what you're saying is, right smack dab, when you build this new courthouse, you will build parking.
So I want to be clear that the city is building the new courthouse. So that the county is selling our property to the city, but the city is embarking on building the courthouse. But we are part of the downtown structure. So it is our intention that within 2 years of that facility being completed, that we will do our part by having structured parking on those two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I, by the way, I don't have a problem. I see where you are. I think, you know, that's not anybody's intent to have a surface parking lot. From my standpoint, I'm fine with it, I guess. And I don't think
We
we
did
need
a
to make
master
it
plan
large
for
design
Franklin
item.
County about 10 years ago, and the parking need was very extreme then, and it
Yeah,
still is. And of course, it's going to get worse during
gonna get
construction.
worse.
There's going to be disruption and all that. And this is one of the sites that was identified even then as a potential parking structure site. So it makes an awful lot of sense. I am concerned about you said the staff, there's only 85 spots. I think that's right. And you said that the staff and public will be using it. How will the public be using it? Are you gonna, I mean, right now, if you go in that garage, you have to pay somebody on the way out, I think. Would it be better for it to just be assigned staff parking and free up space for the public in the other garages, or?
It may, I'll take that back. I know that there's such significant parking concern from both the staff and the public that we want to
Yeah.
make sure that we're addressing both. Now, I will say, if we did make that only staff parking on the temporary basis on that interim lot, it will free up public parking in the existing parking structure that we do have right across the street.
Right.
So it is that balance of trying to ensure what is the easiest place for staff to get access to parking. And maybe it will be in further analysis, and I will absolutely take this back to those who are better at logistics than I in terms of what makes the most sense. It may be actually better to transfer some perhaps staff who had access to the structure and open that up for the public, so it's much easier. For instance, the jurors who come into the common pleas court or the municipal court currently go in primarily try to get into that Fulton Street garage that is there right now, that can fill up on Mondays and Tuesdays in particular. So
From my standpoint, I'm gonna let you guys worry about managing through the thing here. So I don't think that, from my standpoint, doesn't make a difference. What's everybody want to do on this?
I think
I'm not trying to rush the.
I don't like surface parking lots, but I think it's necessary.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am.
Well, if Bob is moving to approve, I'll second, because if this is a real burden on the public, and I'm more worried about the public parking than the staff parking, and you can't get in that garage in the mornings.
Yeah.
Hey,
it's all full.
This is not in any way, shape, or form an intent to make this a surface parking lot. This is just an interim use here, clearly.
Correct.
And I don't have any kind of doubt about that in my mind. So is there a motion then from somebody? I've got a second, but I think
I'll move approval. So
okay, Bob is gonna move, and Otto, did I hear a second from you?
Yes.
Okay, so this motion is on the floor. Are there any other questions or comments?
I just have.
Yes, I'm sorry, Tony. Okay, I'm sorry. 1 second, Janet. Tony, go ahead.
Yeah, who owns the lot to the right or to the east?
It's like a county-owned surface lot that is currently being used as a surface lot where primarily sheriff's office staff parks. So that is county-owned. And the intention for the structured parking would be to take both the existing county surface lot and then the lot in discussion and turn that entire piece into structured.
Perfect. Okay.
Is there a way to combine both of those lots as a surface lot and gain more parking, instead of kind of having it designed as two separate parking facilities?
I'm
wondering if you can get more capacity if you rearrange the site so that it works as one unit rather than two separate parking lots.
If I may, it's actually more parking this way. We actually did look at that just to see with the access points and so on. It's a matter of rearranging, but you really don't pick up any additional parking.
Okay,
because of the concentration
that's
of
what it looks
spaces
like
now.
to me too.
So
okay, Jana, we had a question for
Oh,
you.
yeah,
Do you have a
I
question?
just, okay, thank you. I just wanted to say, I think you've done a very good job for a temporary lot, addressing guidelines and making this as, as attractive as you can. I like the fact that you're accessing and exiting off of Noble. And I just wanted to ask for the landscaping, is it primarily the 24-inch boxwoods? And for the planting beds, is that just directly onto soil, or are there planters? I was just a little confused how that works.
Jamie,
Uh,
if you could respond.
we did plan on the boxwoods, and it is the 24-inch little missy type boxwoods. I believe it's a soil combination that's about 18 inches deep for those root balls and so on. Exactly the type of dirt and so on that we would use, I would have to look into that.
Oh, you don't
But
have to look into that. I just was wondering if they were, it looked like it was just, planting beds. But I wasn't sure if they were in planters or they were just actually planting beds, in soil on the ground. And it seems to be the second.
Okay, are
yes,
there any other questions for the applicant? Questions, comments, anything from the audience? All those in favor of the application, say aye, please. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much for
Thank
bringing
you.
this in. I
thank you,
agree with
commissioners.
Jana. I see dollars spent on this, which I hate to see spent sometimes, especially with some of that underground work for temporary facilities. But good for you for you're managing through something where you're getting big growth, and when all the dust clears, which will be sometime down the line, I'm sure everything will be done nicely. And by the way, I would encourage you and or the city or whoever's doing it to do a nice job architecturally on this new courthouse. We need to do that.
Agreed.
And yeah,
Agreed.
thank you
Thank you
very
so
much.
I appreciate all of the feedback from the staff as well to make this a better project. So thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, commissioners.
Okay, Lewis, next case.
Yes. Okay, so this is 174 East Long Street. Let me pull up that location for you. So here we go, 174 East Long Street. Here at the corner of Long Street and North 4th Street. The northeast corner. No, we have a little feedback. I don't know what's going on. But here's the building right there. And here's a site visit. I took pictures of this location. This is the existing building. It's been in this condition for several years now. This is the southwest corner. This is the west facade. This is the kind of the north facade, or the north elevation, I apologize. Here's a parking lot to the north, just to kind of give you some context of what's surrounding the site. This is the rear of the building. You can see the brick has been painted, and here's the fire escape. Here's the building. So this building, I believe, as you all know, it used to have a skin on it, something added on later on, maybe in the 1950s and 60s. And so it has kind of, as the applicant has indicated, I hope I'm not misrepresenting this, but like an asbestos paint on it or something that's quite difficult to remove, and it's creating this kind of black look to the building. Here are the existing storefronts. You can see that they've been filled in at some point in the past. Here is the southwest corner. The storefront has been removed, and kind of like a curved storefront has been put in its place. Here is the south elevation of the building again, and you can see some of the damage that was done to the cornice when that skin was placed on the building, and here as well, on this brick right here, or the stone right here, it has been a little bit damaged. Here's a close-up of the existing windows, and here is the east elevation, the east side of the building. You can see it's also been painted. This is another historic structure, so both of these are listed locally, just to give you an idea of its location. All right, so They're proposing exterior renovations to a contributing building built in 1912. The property, as I said, is listed on the Columbus Register of Historic Properties and will therefore also be reviewed by the Historic Resources Commission. It'll be going to HRC in April, I believe. Work to be completed includes cornice and belt course restoration, existing stone cleaning and repair, brick repair and painting, so the brick will be painted, louver removal, fire escape repair, and window and storefront installation. And there's some details there I won't get into. The guidelines state that building owners are encouraged to conserve and rehabilitate historic and contributing buildings. New storefronts, whether created through new construction or renovation of existing buildings, should be as transparent as possible. And the proposal generally meets the guidelines with regards to historic resources and architecture and design, just the most basic levels. And here is the proposal. Just go through it pretty quick. Here's the color. And so with that, the applicant is here as well. They can present if they'd like.
Who's here for the applicant, please?
Hi, this is Brad DeHaze. I've hijacked Jeff Bauer's computer, so you can disregard the name at the bottom.
Yeah, okay, I was going to say you're showing up as somebody else. I didn't think that was Jeff Bauer.
Yeah, I'm not as good looking as Jeff. I apologize.
Okay, is anybody else here with you today, Brad?
Jeff is actually in the room with me, but
is he going to speak to anything or just you?
I don't think so. No,
you raise your right hand. Okay, raise your right hand. Do you swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So say I do.
I do.
Thank you very much. Okay. Go ahead.
Well, thank you for having us today. I mean, I appreciate Lewis spending the time on the background of working with us as we submitted the application. A couple years ago, I came in front of your commission to remove the steel cladding that was on the outside of this building. This is the former Department of Aging building. I think it was a Central Ohio Area of Aging. But we went through that process, removed all the cladding. It was kind of what we thought it was with regards to the brick and the limestone on the historic facade. And we were able to go through the application process to get on the National Register of Historic Places. We also put this one on the Columbus Register. And with the property, the original intent in our part 2 for the national for the tax credit application was we had planned to remove the coating on the brick. With that, as we went and we did our sampling on the surfaces, we found out that it was that it did have asbestos in it, and it was slightly above standards as far as needing remediation. So when we looked at it, what was the safest way to remove it? We looked at different chemical applications. We looked at, obviously we couldn't sandblast it because that would be airborne downtown. With our chemical applications, some of the issues we ran into is the brick has a raked face. So I never proposed to paint brick. It's incredibly rare, but in this situation, I've been through this with the National Park Service before, and I know several of you on the commission here have experienced this also. Damaging the texture of the brick would be a huge problem. And there's no way that I can see that we found that we can safely remove it without damaging the brick, because it would be some form of an acid treatment that would take it off. So in this case, we're actually proposing to paint brick. And the color that we're proposing is it's a studio clay. The goal here is the picture is it's not a stucco application. It is a painted brick. So the texture of the brick, everything will remain. All of the stone that's shown here, the stone comes across as more of a taupe color than we're taking it back to the original limestone. So we're
So
there's
that, so
nothing.
just a minute, so you're going to be able to strip whatever this paint or whatever it is that's on there now, you can take it off the stone.
Correct.
And you, so in other words, you will, that'll be the natural stone underneath.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know the
Okay.
color here almost looks like a painted surface. We are not proposing to paint it. We can take this this coating off. It's just what does it do to the surface beneath it? Since the stone, one is more durable, two has a smooth finish. We can do it without damaging the stone. Um, so yeah, everything with regards to all the keys, all the dental molding and corbels and the upper cornice, that's all original stone. And the damages that are on it are from the brackets that held that steel cladding. So when we removed those brackets, we didn't create that damage. We were very careful. But at the same time, as when it was installed, they just, they obviously, they used, probably chisels and hammers to do it, and they just broke it off. So
Brad, what are you going to do with the damage to the stone?
So the damage to the stone in the upper levels, most of those areas can be patched. And with that patch, we've had success of matching it in. It's going to be on the corbels,
Yeah.
more
What are you
interesting.
gonna do with those corbels?
Yeah, once we go to do that, I'm assuming there are going to be several that we're going to have cut and replaced. So what we've proposed is repair and replace on these upper corbels. So I think that's what we're going to see. I mean, as you go through, it's mainly in the shelf on top of it that the majority of the damage is, and it is on the top portion of those corbels. So, I mean, this is a historic tax credit project, so it's everything that we
Those
do
look
will
like
be.
those look like the fronts of all of those corbels are broken off, right on
Yeah,
down the line to me.
It's the top. I don't know if we can zoom in here. You see, so it's about the top upper half
Okay. Of the corbel itself, you mean?
of the corbel itself, correct?
So what, I
Yep.
see what you mean. So what do you do there for that? How do you fix that?
We're gonna have to cut those out and have them recut and made. And we'll have probably a
You mean
horizontal
each of
seam in
the,
it.
you mean each of the corbels, you mean, or just the top
Yeah.
part of it?
Just the top part. We would do a horizontal cut halfway through, and we would bring it, put a new one on top of it.
Can
And
I
Brad,
ask,
this has already got a part 2 that's been approved?
Yes. Now the part 2 has not yet been amended for the paint on the brick. I wanted to make sure. I've never proposed to paint a building downtown, so on brick. So I wanted to make sure that we
I
came
think painting
through.
the brick is a no-brainer. I mean, it's
Me
just
too.
it's just what you have to do, and the
Yeah,
damage that
it's
would be
easy.
caused by removing that stuff would be worse. And
By the
it's
way,
going to
I
be a
don't think it'll look,
huge improvement.
yeah, so I was gonna say, it will not look bad. I think it'll look good.
Yeah.
And
No,
it's
I agree.
one of the big key things on this thing is if you can actually get that stone cleaned up, I'm astounded that you can do that. I mean, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That'll turn
No,
this thing around.
yeah, we've had some success in sampling removal on the stone, and that's not really an issue. We're in good shape there. You might even be able to see some in the upper right, but there's several areas we've removed it.
30 years ago, I had an argument with Jack Lux about painting a brick building downtown, and he won, so he painted it, and it looks great. It's fine.
It's good to
hear. You shouldn't have to apologize for that.
All right.
I think it's the right solution here.
Do those metal frames come off from around those windows there? Those are still there. Brad.
Yes, those will come off. Yeah, those will come off with our new windows. So the windows that we're proposing are the aluminum clad Pella windows without grids. We didn't really have
is the brick on the returns on the window frames, those are intact and everything?
Yes. Yep,
So
the brick's in great shape.
those out to add the new window when they redid it. Okay.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the absolutely the worst aberrations of a redo of an older building that I've almost ever seen. I don't know how in the world
Yeah.
somebody came up with that thing.
Yeah, it could be a case study, I'm sure.
It could be a case study.
Yeah.
Tell
Brad,
us
what's the
about
history of the
some of
building?
this.
What was it originally?
The Standard Building, it's an insurance company. We purchased this building and the building next to it from the city. The building next to it is Winders Motors, and we did that last year. We completed it in April, and the GCAC is the tenant there. This one, we were planning to commence construction last year when COVID hit. We just, we have, as you guys know, we have some larger projects that we've been working on, and we just wanted to make sure that we were devoting all of our time to those. And now we're at a point on this, we're ready to, we have a tenant, we have a retail event center tenant, and we're ready to move forward.
Great.
Tell us, real quickly, procedurally, do we approve this before the HRC has approved this, or how does that work? Or when we prove it, is it subject to the HRC or?
Our arrangement has been that historic buildings go to them first.
Right.
So I don't know why we're not doing that this time, but
I think
this has already been approved.
That's basically my question.
Yeah, I think that's on us. I think we applied here first, and we're on the agenda, I believe, for next month with the HRC, and the request on our end would just be a subject to approval, based on approval by the HRC.
I was just going to address that. Yeah, so they applied with us first, and I indicated, I talked to Connie Torbeck at HRC, and she kind of looked it over. She didn't have any initial comments on it. And so it can be approved subject to any condition that HRC might also add to it. So what we'll do is we'll work together to sync up our approval so the COAs are the same with the same conditions.
I had a quick question. The fire escape on the building, on the back of the building, is that actually a means of egress, or is that, you keep that there just for historic significance, just because that's part of the original building?
So in the prior use, that was a means of egress. I've been through, I think about 2 weeks ago, I was on a call with the building department with regards to where we have to add a secondary egress stairwell through the building on the inside. And we've planned that, we've done that, and we're maintaining the historic staircase at the other corner. So we are no longer going to use these fire escapes. We're going to refinish them and leave them in their historic build, but we're not going to have them in service. Actually, the new staircase is right behind these on the interior of the building, and then it exits on the northwest corner on 4th Street. So you can see on it'd be the west elevation, there's a small man door on the far left side, and that it's existing right now, but obviously the door and everything around it will be replaced.
Okay, well, thank you.
I've got just a quick question. It really doesn't have that much to do with the renovation, but what do you plan for parking in that area? Because it seems like that's always been a problem if that building's been in existence.
Yeah, no, so I'm actually probably the right guy to talk to. So the parking right next to it is owned by a separate entity, but I'm majority owner and manager of that entity. So all the parking probably for the next 60 feet to the north, we own. So that's 92 spaces. And then we also own the parking lot to the east as it wraps around the 182 building. And those parking lots combined are 147 spaces. So we have that's sufficient to supply these buildings. And then down the street, we have some other parking that's in significant numbers, over 700 spaces within a few blocks. So I think we're going to be able to use our current assets to be able to park the project.
Well, that's good because as you know, there's really no off-street parking except just a few little spaces. And unfortunately, when somebody uses those, they're just a target for tickets.
You parking tickets or city tickets on the street? Parking tickets?
Well,
So,
I'm glad you got the other spaces. That was just my question.
Yeah, no, that was huge. That was
The only
huge.
place worse for parking tickets is around the courthouse right now, quite frankly.
Yeah, I'm aware. We own the building right next to those lots that you showed, the Del Monte building. So that's a good temporary use for those lots.
Hey, Brad, will you, or maybe you've been talking to the city about any sidewalk curb repairs, particularly along Fourth? Just looking at Street View, it looks like maybe someone made some improvements.
Yeah, any improvements that were made were temporary for safety. I mean, those sidewalks need to come out. I guess I'd like to maybe ask the question, while I'm on here from the group is, underneath this sidewalk, it has the basement that extends underneath, and we've had that with other properties. But I'm at a point now on this to where I'd really like to fill it. Has anyone had experience downtown and underfilling, like removing the sidewalk, underfilling it, and adding to it? I mean, is that?
I have. I think the city prefers that because they don't. Yeah, that goes out underneath the right of way. They don't like that at all.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll be back. We'll be back in front of you to propose, for those items. And, we also have an awning on the north side we'll be back for, and then all of our exterior lights. So
great.
Those are very easy. And I'm going to guess you're going to have no resistance on any of that stuff.
Right.
Any other questions for the applicant here? What do people think?
A huge improvement.
Mm-hmm.
I think so too. I like it, and I just have absolutely no misgivings about the paint on that direct. I think it's a great solution. I think you're just lucky they didn't have something like what's that? The bane of absolute all existence. That stuff they put on with the tar and the gravel. What do they call
granulite.
it? Granulite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, because that looks like a pretty nice surface. Are you painting the east and the north the same color then, Brad?
Same color. At some point they put an elastomeric paint on those, which is actually in really good shape. So we're just going to go over it with the matching color.
Good. Okay. What's the pleasure of the group? Anybody want to make a motion, please? Put it on the floor.
I'll make a motion to approve the application as submitted, subject to approval of the Historic Resources Commission and the applicant coming back with sidewalks, lighting, and signage.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a second. That's Ted, I believe. I can't see anybody. Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Let me real quick on these window units. These are just 1/1 sashes, it looks like, right?
Correct.
Do they have, do you have a window? Can you show us a window detail here?
I do.
Is there one in your package?
There is.
The Pella Reserve, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. On here, it's showing the grids. We're not having grids in them.
And this is a aluminum window?
Yes, it's aluminum clad. Yep.
Okay.
It's a wood window, aluminum clad, right?
Right.
Correct. Aluminum clad.
Right. And what is the color on the exterior then? Black?
Black.
Okay. And that's the same with the storefronts down on and those are standard looking storefronts on the ground floor. Yes. Any other questions about anything? Everybody all set on all this?
I just had one quick question of when you had the elevation up, I think it was the back elevation. I noticed you had like a 3-bay window called A7. And I'm wondering, is that just because the original opening was a little different there? Or is there a reason that you decided to use that opening in a different way?
Well, that existing opening is not don't think it's as wide as the ones on the front as it wrapped around, and that is because that's on the third floor, and so we stuck with the hung window there. You can see here the second floor has the different widths and different treatment of the windows right there. But as
I
you get up to
see.
this,
Okay.
yeah, yep.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Any other questions? Brad, on the first floor there, where you had that photo there again, it looks like you had limestone that was put in on those north windows along the west side there. Are you removing that then too? That comes out
Windows on the west side.
on the west side along 4th Street there.
I see a picture real quick just to make sure I'm.
That's what I'm trying to get to is the picture. Yeah. There.
All the infill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and also along the south side there, where it says 174. All that
Yeah.
stuff comes out, right?
Yep, all of that comes out, and that inset on the corner where the entry is on the corner right now with the glass, that is no longer the entry. It's going to have storefront all the way to that column, and
Great.
the door, yeah, and the door on those facades will be at the opposite ends of the building. So
Okay.
you can
And
see
what-
here, yeah.
Yeah, and wasn't there also something about how that will be set back more to the original? I think on some of the bays, is that?
Yep, that's
my
absolutely right.
understanding?
Yep.
How will those windows be then set back into the wall, or are they pretty much flush?
The storefront glass, there will
Yes.
be a reveal of the column beyond the storefront glass, so it's not significant. I don't know if I do. I don't know if I have
Well,
a cut here of it, but it's a
Yeah,
couple
you do.
inches.
It looks pretty flush.
Yeah, I mean that's on the ceiling and the floor. I don't know where the column is though. Maybe if we go to one of the pictures, I want to see if I want to say the column protrudes out, but
I would think you'd want those.
yeah, can you see the,
recessed.
there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so the column protrudes out. The storefront will be flush with the header right there as it goes across that lintel, or and then it'll be close to flush down at the base, but there will be a protrusion or of the column out beyond the storefront glass.
You still might want to just recess it, even if it's an inch or something, or an inch and a half
Yeah.
on the top there,
Mhm.
over where so it
I agree
fits
with
back
that.
in a little bit,
Mhm.
Yeah,
as opposed.
yeah, I agree with that.
I'm not sure you really want it flush with that wall unit even. By the way, I love the fact that the columns stick out in front. That's good.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think that's a good idea. I had a quick question about the aluminum clad window. So does that mean that from the inside, it is the wood frame, but on the outside it is protected, that there is aluminum cladding over the wood for protection?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, can we assume then that you would recess those windows some slight amount
Yes.
on the first floor? Okay,
Yes.
so you've got that, Louis, noted. Okay, we do have a motion on the floor. Are there any other questions or comments? Anything from the audience? All those in
That's
favor
great.
say aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
right.
Brad, thank you. That'll be exciting to see this thing come along. Actually, has sat there for many years as a bit of an eyesore. So that's a huge improvement for that area there.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
See
You
Brad.
too. Next case, Louis.
Okay. And Bob, I was unaware that we wanted them all to go to HRC first. So in the future, I'll make sure I direct them to HRC before I bring them to our commission.
Yeah, it's a good idea because they look at it in, with a really fine tooth comb, and all the preservation issues are basically dealt with before it comes to us.
Okay.
That seems to make more sense.
Sure. Okay, the final site is Columbus Crew. Pull it up here on the side. We all know where this is, right? So in this location, we're talking about Confluence Village at this point. And so this is the last case of the day. It's conceptual review. They're doing construction. They're appearing conceptually with a proposal for a new road and a 5-story parking garage. The garage will face the west entrance of Crew Stadium across Columbus Crew Way, and it will form the southeastern edge of residential Block A. Its north and west elevations will overlook the interior residential courtyard. I know commissioners have indicated some concern about what those elevations will look like overlooking that courtyard. The 690 spaces will support Confluence Village and Columbus Crew Stadium, and its design will consist of glazed aluminum curtain wall, perforated aluminum, face brick, aluminum storefront. It will include a bike hub and a public art mural facing the stadium. The proposed road will allow for ingress and egress to the garage and will be designed to be both a vehicular and pedestrian connection between Columbus Crew Way and edge of River Avenue. The roadway will consist of brick pavers and string lighting will hang between the buildings. So our analysis is the guidelines state that unique expression is encouraged, but should be influenced by the pattern of nearby buildings. For each primary building frontage, at least 60% of the area between the height of 2 feet and 10 feet above the nearest sidewalk shall be cleared non-tinted window. Public art is encouraged. In summary, the proposal generally meets the guidelines with regards to building design, materials, and public art. Staff would like to see an emphasis placed on the architecture of the garage elevations facing the residential courtyard. And I do have their submission packet, but the applicant is here to present that as well.
Good morning.
Okay. Who is here for the applicant, please?
This is Greg Bryan with Moody Nolan.
Okay.
We also have Brian Sell, who's the lead designer from our office, Jeff Pagonis from MKSK, and Robert Farron from the City of Columbus.
Okay, very good. Would all of you folks raise your right hand, please? Do you swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So say I do.
I do.
Thank you very much. Okay. Take it away.
Good morning, commissioners. My name is Robert Farron. I'm an assistant director of the Department of Public Service, overseeing our parking services division, and good to see everyone again. I just want to kick it off, then I'll pass it off to Greg and the Moody Nolan team. We're really excited from the city standpoint to be moving this garage forward to support Astor Park as well as the Crew Stadium. This garage is primarily to serve the mixed-use development, the residential and office, as well as special event parking at the Crew Stadium. This also supports our strategic parking plan for the downtown, which we presented to you pre-pandemic, I believe January of 2020, where the city leverages public-private partnerships to offer public parking in strategic locations, including this new development. The one thing I'll note about the management of this facility, it'll be a holistic management of both the on-street parking as well as the off-street, both managed by the City of Columbus, and leveraging our shared parking in terms of both on the site as well as neighboring sites in the Arena District to make sure we are providing the right amount of parking for the with that, we are really excited to have Moody Nolan and their team on board designing this. And with that, I'll pass it off to Greg. Thank you all.
Thank you, Robert. So thank you all for giving us the time today. This from Moody Nolan's end has been, I would say over a year in the making since we were brought on board by Robert's team. I think the newest thing that has happened is I think our name is a little outdated now that the Astor Park has been unveiled recently. This garage is, again, just one component of an overall development, which you've seen recently through the conceptual designs that the Pizzuti team has shared. We have been not only working with the City of Columbus, but the Pizzuti team, the Haslam Sports Group, and also NRI, hand in hand through the entire process, and have gone through really a number of design iterations to make sure that this garage spoke to the vocabulary of the development, and also had a sensitivity not to dominate the development, but try to give enough life to it that it wasn't just adult parking garage. So again, Brian and us, we've gone through a number of iterations that nobody's really seen except for a select few of us, and we're pretty excited to share this with you today. I don't know if you could pull up the plan. I was going to walk you through kind of just the logistics of the garage, and then we'll kind of get into the design end of it. So is that available to pull up the ground level?
Yeah, I can do that. One moment.
Thank you, Liz. Currently, we're sitting at a plan that represents 681 spaces striped. That includes all accessible parking. ADA van spaces are including in that. The ground level has about 100 spaces, plus or minus. I think we're just maybe at 99 right now. We've been really focusing on circulation of the garage, how to move people in and out in a safe manner, and also give them quick access points. There's a number of activities happening here. Just for your reference, we have the office to the south, and that's hugging Nationwide Boulevard. We have 2 entry points to the garage. We have our main entry at the north end, which is the top of the page. There's an ingress and an egress, and we also allocated a middle lane, which is going to be a flex lane. That will allow for, when we have, events, specifically events at the soccer stadium, to allow, quick clearing of the garage to get people to their destinations. We also have an in and out at the south end, which is kind of the hatched area alley that you see on the bottom side there. This is a traditional garage, center ramp all the way up 5 stories, like Lewis said. We have dedicated currently 10 charging stations in the design with infrastructure to support an additional 40. And that's pretty much it for the logistics of the garage. We're about just for site reference, we are at 266 feet from down Columbus Crew Way. That's from the main tower at the south end there to the top residential point, and then 184 feet from side to side going down along the alley from east to west. Overall, we're about 65 feet total in height to the top of the tower at the south end, and then just a tick below 50 feet to the top level of the parking garage. I'm going to pass it over to Brian. Like I said, we've gone through multiple iterations, and then we're gonna circle back to the site end of this. I know that you've already seen a lot of that already with the development submission. A lot of the vocabulary of that site is the same and threads into it seamlessly. So Brian, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, great, Greg. Hi, everyone. Yeah, this is Lewis. If you want to go back, you were right on. Those elevations maybe is a good place to kind of start, because we can go back and talk about the site. We've been working really hand in hand with MKSK, and so we do want to focus on the way the site sort of reflects what's going on in the building up above. If you want to advance it maybe one more to the rendering elevations, or a couple more, I guess. There, yeah, that's probably good. We've been working with, like Greg said, the whole team, the whole development team, and coming up with a solution that kind of did that exactly that. We don't really we want this building to kind of be a background building, but it also, they do want it to be somewhat of a statement, but a quieter statement, and so. It was nice to come to an agreement on this, on what we've developed as this sort of perforated aluminum, and we can look at the materials later, but this sort of perforated metal aluminum fins that are sort of the same width, and they basically open like an accordion and open and close to sort of reveal some of the and become more vertical in the middle of the garage and kind of focus your attention on possible locations of the public mural that we have shown and the bike hub on the south elevation. And then as they fade out, they flatten out and become more horizontal. And then those horizontal sort of reveals work with the architectural statement and architectural language that is in the office building and in the residential. So we really like the whole team sort of really likes that sort of way the garage has this kind of movement in it, animated in it, but it's still one material, very quiet, and it's this aluminum sort of perforated metal floating over a brick base, and the brick tiers and low brick walls at the pedestrian level. And then we have these elements that we're hoping to move forward with. This public mural and the landscape, in a sense, widens and accepts and allows for slower spaces and for gathering around that mural. And then on the south facade, there's this bike hub, which is really important and critical to the sort of bike parking for the development. So we wanted to kind of really make sure that it has ample space in the building facade. And so and really we worked hard to make it very clear where vehicles go and where people go, and not to mix those. And so the one corner stair that you see is exposed. Very clear. People exiting the garage know where they're going, see whether they're going to the office building and to the across the street to the arena or the stadium. And if you're a residence, which most of this parking is for the residences connected to the the apartments connected to the sort of west end and the north end of the building. You would actually go, we have floor-to-floor connections, direct connections. We've worked that out with the apartments. So you don't actually have to enter a stairwell. You can enter directly into a floor. So that keeps the pedestrian traffic kind of, or the residential traffic kind of private and integrated. I guess we could sort of flip through the views and any comments. So here you see from the sort of VIP entrance, that west entrance to the stadium, across the street. If I were looking across the street, and everyone wanted that entrance to kind of have somewhat of a statement and be very clear that this is the entrance you would use to go towards the stadium. And this is also the sort of entrance you would see. I think if you go to the next slide, as you're driving into the area, into the district. I think that shows on the next slide. Yes, and you see the office building to your left there with its very horizontal and wave-like windows, and so you can see we're kind of emulating that wave motion that we saw in the office development into the facade of the garage as well. Very subtle. This is a great view of looking from the sort of northwest corner of the stadium, that public space. Obviously, the stadium is not in view. One of the things we want to note about signage, just a quick statement. We know this is conceptual, but we do have some ideas about signage. It will be very quiet and very integrated into the structure. I think you can see some hints of red and possibly green above the vehicular entrance there. We intend on, because this is a flexible lane usage, multi-lane usage. It's almost like a toll gate where you will know what gate you should enter and which are exit, and those will switch. So we want to integrate that into the paneling and have that somewhat changeable. But then that large band you see, which that reveal band is a metal band. We're basically we really want to wrap or hide the structural concrete at the ground level, and that band becomes a signage band. And we're hoping next time we meet, come with this full signage package. But that will actually give the Columbus Crew Way, in this case, a street name, so that you know which entrance you're sort of entering. But everything signage-wise is going to be integrated into the architecture. So no, we don't see ourselves coming with large flag arm, circle Ps or anything like that. So that's the intent on graphics overall. And the same will happen on the south elevation. Sure what the next view is. Yeah, that shows up the bike hub, and you can see the bike hub has that similar sort of band at the top for signage possibility. There will be some interesting graphics to really so people understand what the bike hub is. Basically indoor sort of bike parking behind the glass, very open and transparent for security reasons, similar to the reason the stair is open and very transparent. And here's sort of the materials we're looking at. We intend on using two subtly different sort of metals to kind of accentuate the wave-like motion, and we'll have some real samples in our next talk that we can look at, make sure we're all comfortable with that. But one intent was to have a slightly and very natural sort of metal colors, a very a silvery, and then possibly a warmer silver to that. We intend on staining the exposed faces of the concrete so as it doesn't become too light, and also to make it somewhat consistent. So we're intending on staining behind those, behind the mesh, and we're talking about a 40 to 50% transparency in that mesh, and we will have some actual samples here. The anodized aluminum framing and metal paneling is right now we're thinking of as black, and that's because of the stadium across the street, to sort of match the metallic of that. It was intentional that the panels do not match the stadium. There was we didn't want that type of confusion, and that's that's where we sort of worked with everyone in the development team, sort of came to that conclusion, is very happy with the contrast in metal colors on the perforated panel. And then we're using a brick, and this is a similar brick. We're going to match and work with the housing development portion of this. This is actually the brick that's used in the housing, and we're extending that into the base for the piers and the sort of crash walls you see on the lower level, at the pedestrian level. So I don't know if Jeff, you want to add anything about sort of how the site is somewhat complementing that, but
well,
yeah,
you want to show us what you're thinking about for the west and north side? It's just up against the building, right? But there is an exposed west side. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that is correct.
Yes.
Yeah, we're only coming today with for conceptual with the public sort of public street facades. We are developing with Pizzuti the courtyard has been finalized from an architectural standpoint, but we are still working with MKSK on the development of the courtyard. And the reason that's important is there is a pool, there is
right.
And so there also wants to be there's a goal to have a surface that possibly is projectable from a green space attitude and sort of from the pool, and we're locating that sort of solid space. We are in development of those facades.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
so those west side is TBD.
Yeah, it is. And I would just add at this point, what we're representing is a brick wall at the first level to, really secure that courtyard perimeter from a public standpoint. There is a set of doors that go out the backside at that northwest corner, but those will be, card access to residents to get through there. But again, our intention is really, we just have the brick that is matching the residential at the base. And
okay.
It's taking us a pretty long time to get to this point for the other two sides.
No, that's okay.
We will continue to work with Pizzuti on that.
Sure. No, that's good. We just are we're trying to just ask what you're asking us to look at. So fine, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's great.
I think we're talking to Jeff now about the landscape. Is that where we're going now?
Thanks, Commissioner. I won't keep you too long here on site. I think you all have been privy to what we're doing big picture district-wide. Much like the south face of the stadium, where we have, quite a long expanse of building frontage, we're working to make the landscape and streetscape experience rich and dynamic, robust. And so we're doing the same thing here along the face of the garage. And I don't know, Louis, if you have any details that highlight that in this package, but rich with landscape, a little bit of movement in the sidewalk. Yeah, we've sort of downplayed the landscape so you can see the building here, but
there we go. That's
there you go. There you go. Right.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of
bit?
thanks. A little bit of wandering in the landscape and sidewalk alignment. We're featuring, some of the reclaimed pavers in the sidewalk. So just adding a bit of interest along the walk as you proceed along the face of the garage. And then down the alley, it's a much more urban experience, if you will. We've got some overhead festoon lighting in that cobbled alley, much less landscape. It's like I said, a more urban experience.
I have a question about the alley, the brick alley that you're creating. Is that the alley between the parking garage and the office building?
It is, exactly.
And I'm wondering, do you see a lot of people crossing? I know it looks like there's an entry to the office building right at that right at the north of the office building in the middle. And do you see a lot of people coming from the garage and crossing over right at that midpoint? Because I'm wondering if that's the case, maybe the paving pattern or the coloration could be, in that area could be subtly changed, like a crosswalk.
Yeah, good question. I think one of the things that we're thinking about doing, and we haven't resolved this just yet, is doing exactly what you're suggesting at the entry to the office building. I don't know, Louis, if you want to flip over to that site plan. Jenny, you can sort of see it highlighted there where we've got a bit of a pavement coloration change. I would call that conceptual now as well, just like the rest of this. But yeah, we're thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I would add that, when we're looking at this, we would propose to try to divert everybody possible to the south corner there, just from a safety standpoint, with the exiting and ingress into the garage at that point, trying to feed them down to the crosswalk to the south, I think is preferred. To get them to the tower where the stairs are anyways, and the elevators that they would need to get up to if they weren't on the first floor. So I think that was our, kind of our intention right now. But, to be
Yeah,
determined.
Greg, I think that's a good point. Most folks are going to be funneled to that stair tower. So that sort of carpet, if you will drive them visually to the entrance of the office once they cross the street, which is where 90% of those folks are going to come out anyway.
And you don't really want to advertise a crosswalk right next to the ingress egress thing. Right. Anyway, I would think.
Right.
I mean, that's almost a back entrance to the office building in a way.
It is. It's probably employee entrance.
Well, whatever you do there, like you said, it's safer to direct it at that corner. And also because you do have a garage, it looks like it's the garage entry or egress on the south as well.
Other questions, comments?
I just wanted to, I think it's related to that. First of all, I love it. Maybe I thought the garage would be the boring part of this project, but it's not. It's super cool. And I'm real excited about this. I think it's great. And maybe this is for Jeff too. It's about flow and circulation, and maybe it's on game day, pedestrian flow. And I'm like this image showing the premium entry Yeah, in terms of that planting treatment on Columbus Crew Way, do you need to kind of really thicken up that planting to guide people, or on game day, is it a little more willy-nilly, and is Columbus Crew Way a little more of a shared street?
Yeah, good question. I think had we're really not trying to buffer the sidewalk or pedestrians. I think it's really it's just part of a landscape experience, this sort of park in a park sort of experience. I think one of the important things to remember is there's only a couple hundred folks here that are actually going to park in this garage for game day. Traffic, like it typically is in the arena district, will be, heavily regulated by, by the crew and by, traffic monitors. So, I don't think there's a huge pedestrian conflict along Columbus Crew Way for residents or for visitors on game day. It's a pretty well controlled environment. I'm not sure if I answered your question or not, but
you did. You absolutely did. I just wondered how that would kind of look and feel on game day, and you did. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Hopefully, if folks are, going from the Village Garage over to the Premium Entry, they're hitting that South Stair Tower and banging right across the street. I think by and large, that's what you'll see.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I had a question then about the gentleman from the city of Columbus said that they're trying to manage the parking in the parking garage and the on-street parking. What does that mean, manage on-street parking? Did I hear that correctly, or?
Yes, this is Robert Farron again.
Thank you,
I was
Robert.
simply just providing the context that because this is the municipally managed parking facility, we have the opportunity to manage both on and off street coordinated and together. So for special events, we don't plan on having on-street parking available on the streets because, as Jeff just said, there'll be a managed traffic pattern happening. But during non-events, which is most of the time, you'll be able to use the Park Columbus app on street as well as off street. Rates will be in line so that we're encouraging short-term parking on street, longer-term off street. There's about plus or minus 60 parking spaces on street on the new surface streets that are being built around the building.
That's it, huh? That's not very many.
Not very many, but
yeah.
We'll there's no on-street parking on Columbus Crew Way. It's on Edge of River and on the northern road there.
Gotcha, Jaeger, whatever it is. Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? What are reactions?
I was just going to say, I think this is a very handsome garage, and it'll be great with the stadium. I am interested to see what happens on the other two sides in the courtyard, so that'll be interesting. But on the garage itself, I really like the fact that the facade, the ramps are in the middle and the facades are horizontal. I think that is really great looking. I have a question for Robert. It has to do with the bike hub. What does that mean, bike hub, and who's running it? And the reason I asked that question is when I did the garage at the Coleman Center, I built the bike hub, and I think it's being used as a conference room. So I'm wondering, what are we thinking here with regards to that bike hub?
Sure. I can't speak for what's happening in the Coleman garage, but in terms of this facility, and I'll let Moody Nolan chime in too, we plan this to be secure bike parking to encourage cycling as a commuter to the office building, for residents, and also for game day. Although for game day, we also anticipate having more temporary bike valet and parking for folks. We just see a great opportunity with the Olentangy Trail connection and the pedestrian bridge being built. So we still have to figure out how we're going to manage that, but it will be secure in terms of encouraging folks to bike. We know that when we just put a standard U-rack out on the street, that doesn't necessarily move the needle in the way we want to encourage cycling.
Right.
But basically it means storage.
Just,
it means a place to store your bike. Is that what that means? A bike hub? So now you go to this place and you can get off your bike and you put your bike there, and then you can walk somewhere.
Correct, and it's in a
Okay.
more controlled environment. It's not climate controlled in terms of it being air conditioned, heated, but it's out of the elements. It's more secure. It raises the awareness and prioritizes cycling. And because of where it's located, off the alley, it's going to be a straight shot off the pedestrian bridge across Edge of River. It'll be a nice path to that
Gotcha.
bike.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's a great idea. I just want to make sure it happens.
Yeah, it's somewhat modeled after a bike hub we did up at the Bridge Park development. Well, actually across the street from Bridge Park development, but the library, Columbus Metropolitan Library parking garage there, City of Dublin parking garage, and it has a bike hub. This one is a very similar model. It's really, secured, kind of protected weather from weather bike parking, with some amenities such as a water bottle filling and like an air compressor, so that so that type of minor amenity to kind of help in a sense support and that's been working so far really well in Dublin.
Yeah, and as far as it's a glass box, so it promotes safety, but we also intend to have some sort of super graphic on the back wall and maybe the front glass, again, to create that destination point, to highlight it. Sometimes I feel, bike racks, they're just kind of floating out in space. They don't draw the attention. So this really kind of gives that central meeting point. And, bikers kind of like to gang with bikers, and it's, kind of a gathering place that, you'll see some highlights to that a little, later in our next submission. But for now, we wanted to just, show where it's located. We had this thing positioned in multiple spots on the plan. And again, as Robert stated with the bike path, we felt that this kind of checked all the boxes. It also gives a nice accent. If you go back to that office plan, it is basically aligned with the vestibule entry there. So again, kind of having a nice kind of focal point coming out of that space.
Okay, other
Great, thank you.
questions for the,
I
this
just,
is conceptual, and again, I guess what we're really going to talk about is the east side and the south side and the siding and the landscape element. So, okay, Jana, go ahead.
yeah, I just wanted to say, I think that the panel design of south and east facade is really beautiful and creative, and you've spent so much time figuring out how to get that effect. And I'm wondering if maybe some subtle lighting on it, especially the public side, the east side, might be very interesting in the evening and night to really accentuate what you've done. Might be very interesting. Nothing dramatic, but maybe something that, really just suggests that animated facade. And I also think that when you're developing the west side, I think the north also might need some attention, because it looks like there are some residential units that look out over the north, but I could be wrong about that. That's just what I thought there.
Okay, are there other comments then?
And I just had one other thing, and it has nothing to do with the garage. It has to do with the pathway, the river pathway. I'm wondering if you had given any thought to extending it a little bit more north to include the Block B, I think it's called, residential units, or if maybe the slope is too steep at that point, or it's not practical. But I was just wondering, because that's such a nice amenity, and you have that extra land there. And I just was wondering if that's something that's feasible, or you've looked into it and decided it wasn't, a good idea.
Thanks, Jana. I think if I heard you right, you were suggesting that we extend the meandering sidewalk north of the garage project. Is that what I heard?
Well, the one here that's on, the one that's on near the river, that is in the grass. You have a pathway, right, that was created?
Are you talking about the park project itself?
Yeah, is that not part of I thought that this pathway that was created was part of was part of the design, but maybe it isn't. I thought it was in the scope of work, but if not,
Yeah.
apologize.
Yeah, let me just address that real quick. So the city's Rec and Parks team and our team are working together to try to link the park improvements and the private development improvements. So that's those are ongoing discussions right now. I think that's a great comment. We want to make sure that this thing, doesn't have to look the same, from one end to another, but we want to make sure that they're linked well.
Right, right. And then the other comment was just on your garage, the north facade, as you're working on the west facade, maybe also looking at the north as well. I don't know. It looks like you might have some units there in the Block A that will be affected by that facade.
Correct. Yeah, we'll be exploring both the west and the north. That's going to want to be tied together with the design that has flow to it.
Well, thank you.
And then kind of talking about your lighting question, that is something we're currently starting to study right now. How not just the garage itself is going to glow by the lighting through the perforation. So Brian and myself are really looking at ways to how to use lighting in a successful way, not just put a bunch of accent lighting on it because it may be diluted. We also have the tower itself that is going to be a beacon. So I would hope that the next round we'll be able to share some night renderings to give you an understanding of what that's going to be. The perforations again are going to be not just probably a traditional dotted perforation. I think you saw in the sample. That's going to be stamped in a way that it will give it a little more of a unique look to it, and again, add some dynamic views at night.
Well, thank you.
Very good. It's a beautiful project. Are there any more comments for the applicants?
Looks good.
Anything else? Okay.
Yeah, it looks great,
well,
guys.
I think
Thank
it looks good. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all.
We appreciate it. We'll see you back soon.
Okay, thank you. Louis, anything else? You've got your administrative approvals here. Has everybody had a chance to look at those? And then is there any other new business? Louis, were you going to update us on the lighting standards research update?
Yeah, can I get a vote to enter those staff approvals into the formal record, please?
Is there a motion to do so?
I'll move to add those to the record.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, there's a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. That's done. Thanks.
Okay, sure. So I'll just give you an update on the lighting standards research. So, this is some ongoing research we've been doing and looking into how to resolve some concerns that the commissioners have with the lighting and the graphics that are being approved downtown. And if you recall, 2 meetings ago, I presented that BZS had approved code section 3377.08. And it deals with illumination and special effects. We discussed it for a little bit, and essentially this code section, I'll just give a brief review. It applies citywide, and BZS worked for a long time to try and craft a code section that will adequately control these kinds of issues citywide. Of course, it doesn't apply. I think the only place it doesn't apply is downtown. And so what we think is the best way of handling some of the issues we have so far is to reference this code section in our downtown code section. So downtown code section is 3359.25. That deals with graphics. The problem is it only references chapter 3375 of city code, which is the general provisions, and chapter 3381, which is the implementation. And neither of these sections regulate illumination and changeable copy. So
but according to the policy,
about,
you can't put changeable copy anyway, right?
What's that? I apologize.
You said it doesn't regulate illumination or changeable copy, but it doesn't allow changeable copy in the first place. Am I misunderstanding that?
Well, no, I mean, it allows it. We can approve it. That's how we're approving the LED displays that we've approved in the past.
Okay.
So even though you can approve it, there's nothing, once we approve an LED display, nothing's controlling what's going on. They can just put movies on there and so these are the things that talk about like 8 seconds between static images, nothing floating in, nothing, no movies, nothing like that. And then once again, when we approve lighting or an LED, there's nothing for code to use later on to make sure it's not too bright. We've approved it, it's approved. So we don't have that mechanism in place. So we talked with Building and Zoning Services, Chris Prezzuti, and some other individuals down there who worked on this code section. This is planning, me with some other individuals in planning. And they really think that adopting this code section would be the best course of action. It's the cleanest way right now that we can address some of these issues. And I just want to give you a heads up that I'm working with BZS and we're going to be working with the city attorney's office to discuss the feasibility of adopting this into section 3359. And then any graphics that are approved downtown by this commission will have to meet those code requirements. And so it's an automatic thing. The applicant will know that. When it comes into BZS, they'll make sure that it does meet those code requirements. And now we have a tool that we can send code enforcement officers out to issue code violations if they're not meeting these guidelines adopted by the city.
So question, suppose something comes in that where we don't want to follow these regulations, we want to let them do something different. Do we still have the authority to approve that?
My understanding is no. They'd have to get a variance. Now, if they go through the variance process, then they can come to us with a variance to this code section. We can recommend approval of it, and then it would go on to city council to have that variance approved. So it can still take place, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult for the applicant.
So I don't understand what the requirements are. Is it just simply what you have in that top paragraph there, policy language?
So this is the policy language is what we have in our design guidelines. So we just kind of reference that, it shouldn't be too bright, and we say
whatever
that
too bright is.
Exactly. So what does that mean? I don't know. And then if someone approves it saying something and then it gets approved, we don't have like a qualitative way of measuring it. This, as you recall, Bob sent out that email. It talks about wattage, which I guess might not be so applicable, but it talks about lumens, and it gives a framework in place to measure what has been installed.
And would it be retroactive to signage or lighting it's in place?
So so this is an ongoing conversation we're having with the city attorney's office. Like Bob just said, I imagine it's probably not going to be retroactive because it wasn't then, but it will for everything going forward.
Okay.
Would there be any benefit to establishing like a range of lumens that we know from experience downtown seem to, not, be in that range that is not too bright but still gives flexibility?
So I would say that when 3377.08 was adopted, they went through an extensive, study of lighting and whatever was involved with that. And they came up with what they felt was a reasonable threshold to allow that sort of flexibility without being too stringent. And so this isn't, I just wanted to give you an update. I'm happy to, these are all great questions, keep asking me questions, but this is a process we're still having with the city attorney's office. I'm not sure, but hopefully maybe I can bring someone from BZS in to discuss some more of these questions related to what 3377 does before I come forward to you guys for any kind of motion to adopt this. So there will be ongoing discussions moving forward and more education, more explanation, so we all understand what we're talking about.
Okay.
And by the way,
I'd like to go back to exceptions for a second. I think referencing this as the standard is good. I resist any further attempts to limit the downtown commission's authority in the downtown. So I'd like to see if there's a way to reference this as the standard, but acknowledge the fact that we are in charge of downtown, and that's not the right word, but you know what I mean. I don't like the idea that somebody comes in the arena district, which we've already defined as chaos, and in a good way, and they want to do something creative and different that maybe isn't in the standard. I don't think they should have to go to city council for it. I think we should have the authority to, to approve something. And I don't have any idea we'd ever use that, but I don't like anything that comes in and infringes on our authority in the downtown. We were given design review, we were given zoning, we were given the graphics commission, and I don't think this should take away from that authority.
Sure. And I mean, this was something that was brought to us by the commissioners that they have concern about it. So we'll try and tailor something that you are the most comfortable with, that you want to adopt. So that's something that as we go through the process, we can talk to the city attorney's office, BZS, and try and figure out how we can make something like that possible.
Good.
I agree. My observation of the current city attorney's office interaction with us is that they're usually telling us what we can't do. And I think they should be charged with, you're our attorneys, this is what we would like, how do we get there?
Right. And that's going to be our idea with this moving forward. So I will try and relate that to the attorney's office as we go through this process.
And
excellent.
By the way, here's one other thing I'd like you to keep in mind too, at least from my standpoint. When we're talking about standards, and I think those are going to end up being very helpful here as guidelines and so on. I think that the downtown might be different than what happens for standards in the suburbs. So for example, I don't know that there's any place downtown we'd need to have the same light levels that they might want to have on Morse Road or some of these or up along the freeways or something like that. So I just think we need to think those things through while we're doing this, because we have a different environment.
Right. Okay. And I'll keep that in mind as well. Yeah. And we can we have to do more digging on this and see what do those numbers represent. And maybe we can get some sort of idea of how bright that is. And maybe we say, whoa, that's really bright, we're fine with it. Or maybe we say, hey, we would like to have more flexibility to go a little bit brighter if we would like. The other way we could do this as well is, we would just reference these standards on a COA. And then it would be on a case-by-case basis if that might solve some of the issues we have with flexibility. But those are all things we'll discuss as we move forward with the process.
Okay. Great. Thank you for doing this.
Sure, no problem.
And then you were also going to look into if there were any places around the country where where they have lighting standards that are really kind of high quality, innovative. So I don't know if you have done that or found out any of those items or.
Well, so right now we want to kind of see what we have already and see how that works. I mean, these are pretty new standards. These were done in 2014.
I know.
So they're really new. So let's look at what we have. Let's understand it better. And then I'm more than happy after that to go look at some additional standards. If we feel that we need to modify it, then we can say, okay, well, this city does this. Maybe we can do that as well. But this will be an ongoing process that takes a while. So
good. Thanks for the update. Any other questions, comments? Everybody all set? Thanks very much.
Yep.
Good meeting.
Good meeting.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Have a great rest of the week.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
I know.
Bye.